I typically stay away from screens in the last hour before bed, and then I will dim down half of the lights wherever I am. And it's a good hack, actually, because, I think people would be surprised at how soporific low light is. It's one of the reasons that, if you go camping and there's very little electric light, you typically start to drift towards an earlier and earlier bedtime. And most people think, well, it's just because there's not much to do. There's no Netflix, there's no kind of BBC iPlayer to watch. Yes, there's probably some of that, but it's also the fact that you're getting a huge darkness signal that you wouldn't get otherwise. And in this modern era, we are a dark-deprived society. And I think that's one of the reasons that we have sleep problems. And I don't say that without science. There was a great study where they looked at people who had done iPad reading for 1 hour before bed versus just reading a normal book in dim light. And there were 3 critical findings. The first was that the iPad actually decreased the amount of melatonin. Excuse the sirens.
Don't worry about it, it's fine.
So the iPad actually decreased the amount of melatonin release, this critical hormone of darkness that helps regulate the healthy timing of sleep. Decreased that by 50%, 50. So it slashed your melatonin release in half.
For the whole night? Or?
For the whole night, yeah.
Yeah.
The second was that it delayed the onset of the peak of that melatonin by about 3 hours. So you're probably much closer to, being in sort of Prague time than you are, sort of London time at that stage. The final thing was that it actually disrupted REM sleep as well. And what they also found when they asked people the next morning, how refreshed do you feel? How restored by your sleep do you feel? And after 1 hour of iPad reading before bed, people felt consistently less refreshed by their sleep. And what was even more fascinating was that they tracked them. And after they stopped using the iPad, the effect still had a blast radius for about 2 or 3 days afterwards.
No way.
So there's almost this dose response that it's almost like taking a drug, that it takes some days to clear out your system. So this is just 1 hour of iPad reading. So you can imagine the effects of nightly computer work on your sleep and your disrupted sleep.
That's absolutely insane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they have the night mode. Is it called night shift? Night shift.
Yeah.
But I don't think it blocks out enough blue light, night shift. Because if I compare it to, there's another one called F-Lux, I'm sure you know about it, you can get it for your computer. That will make my screen really quite red.
It will desaturate the blue light from the screen, and it's the blue light that's most harmful. Do those pieces of software have an effect? No one's really done the studies yet to actually see if they're efficacious or not. But it does bring up an interesting question, which is, why blue light? Why is it blue light specifically that's the most harmful? Well, firstly, any light in the evening is going to damage the release of melatonin. It's going to stamp the brakes on it and prevent it from being released. But it is blue light that's most harmful. We are most sensitive to blue light. The reason is an evolutionary explanation. Where we evolved was not on the land, but in the sea. We evolved in the ocean. That's where we came from. And water acts like a filter of light. And that's why the ocean is typically blue. If you're in the sort of the ocean and sort of you see it, it's a blue color. Why? Because it refracts out the yellows and the reds and leaves you with blue. So where we evolved to gain our light signal was in the ocean. And it's in the ocean where we're sort of saturated by blue light. So it's the blue light that we evolved to be most sensitive to get our daily hit of light and our light signal.